Question is it more than that? And I think that's what the discussion is going to be today. Is what is the goal that we have with DevOps? What do we want to achieve? And discuss what is it? Is it more than just stuff it in Git? So if we talk about analytics and DevOps, then the whole goal is, of course, that we get actionable insights for business users to make decisions, whether it's on a strategic level, whether it's on an operational level. And people want to have their information quickly because they have certain needs, they have certain problems, they want to look into something and they say, hey, can you provide me that data? And then, of course, they ask that question and we say, sure, we can work on that. And we'll make a project and we'll sign a project manager. We will ask for budget. And before you know, it's already Christmas. And then we get started. It's Easter and then we deliver next summer, right? It can take a long time. So in this discussion about DevOps, question, where do you start? But also, how can we deliver fast? How can we deliver the information that people need in a very high speed? And then how can we make sure that we have collaboration in teams working together, both the developers, the people that have to maintain the platform, the people that are going to use the platform. And that is the area of DevOps for analytics that we're going to address today. So what is the agenda? Now, first we want to introduce ourselves and the company Motio to you. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into DevOps for analytics. And then we'll end the discussion with talking about analytics asset management and what that is and why it could be very helpful for your organization. All right, so introducing Motio, we're a very proud Texas company here, located in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But DevOps and analytics are everywhere around the globe. Power BI and Qlik are used everywhere. That means that we are having a global presence and partners all over the world, global support. And I'm happy to be here with my Dutch partner. Now, often, we have to focus on our skill set and we have to sharpen the Qlik saw. And there are a few events that are coming up. For all the people in Europe, I would invite you to Orlando, right? Very nice city. Go to Disney World, visit Florida. And for all the people in America, go to Dublin, right? Everybody in America has Irish roots, so you should go to Dublin and enjoy your beer there, I think. But Barry will be there, Wunderlich will be there, and others. But also Motio will be present at this event. And then we have our own Motio event, Jazz Up Your Analytic in New Orleans, where we're going to discuss a lot of topics that we bring forward today, focusing on the DevOps, but also make your implementation more successful with tooling. Now, like I said, Lynn and I are touring through Europe, talking with a lot of BI directors, and we have discussion with BI teams, but also in our daily work, we talk with a lot of teams and discuss, well, what is your pain? Why are things going slow, or why is it not efficient? Why does it take so much time? And they tell us a few things. The first thing is that when you develop in Qlik, there's no branching and merging what people are used to do when they do Java development or .NET development, right? There's no branching and merging, and that means that people have to wait for each other. So if Barry's working on an app, I have to wait because before he finishes his whole load script and everything, and then I can take over and do the sheets, but then he has to do some other things, so he has to wait for me again, and that takes time, and that means that we deliver slow. Quality issues in app. Do we follow best practices, right? Do we apply Qlik's proven practices, your own corporate standards? We have some audio issues. Oh, okay. So quality issues in apps is, of course, a topic. And that means that if somebody develops or is new to the team, or it's a consultant that isn't familiar with how the organization is developing, how do we communicate these best practices in the way of working? But then you have to check that and spend a lot of time on that. Knowledge leaks in the organization. People come and go. We have external people working on apps, and then you look back and go, why did we make this change? Why did we decide to build it in this way? Right? You might have documentation, but how do you connect that to the change that you made, or how do you connect that to the ticket to the change in Qlik. And then people are copying apps, right? Because there's no version control available. So what do? I make a copy. I probably have like 7 or 8 copies of this slide deck on my laptop, right? Version 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think I have over 10,000 slide decks in total on my laptop. And then my marketing department comes to me, say, hey, we have a new color scheme, and we have a new logo. And then I pull up an old PowerPoint, and they go like, that's not according to our standards, right? So it happens to me with PowerPoint, and it happens to people that use business intelligence a lot as well. And then cumbersome deployments, bringing something from one environment to another, or from one workspace to another, from one stream to another, right? Very cumbersome. There's no audit trail. There's no embedded rollback. So start copying again, and that creates risk. That creates also unwanted, unpredicted impact. And then what people do is build procedures, build dams in the process, and that creates slowdown in bureaucracy, and that increases cost again. So this is what we're facing. And I don't know, Barry, if you recognize this at your customers or in your practice.
I recognize this certainly. Yeah, these are very common issues in our practice that we have to solve.
Yeah, and also what we want is to put oil in the machine that it goes easier, this whole development and delivering of business intelligence. So you talk about DevOps, and everybody has seen this image, of course. That as a BI manager or a director of business intelligence, you know that if the problem is found later in the process, the costs are higher, right? If there's a problem in the coding or the load script is not working and you're a developer, you just fix it very quickly, right? So the cost is not that high. But if you have created a build already and then somebody detects it, well, you have to fix that and recreate your build. Now, if it gets later in the process where actually the testers are there evaluating, I build an app, I'm not a very experienced, Barry looks at my app, he's going like, hey, Edwin, this is not good, you have to do this differently. Yeah, you have to solve this differently. Right? You have to use master items or whatever he tells me to do. I have to take it back, I have to do it again and then give it back to him and he has to test it again, right? So we lose time, valuable time, but also the cost increases. And then when it's even in a release, it's brought to our end users, that end users testing, and they go like, this is not correct. This is not what I asked for. What is this definition? Why did you use this? And I made mistakes. It's getting more expensive. And God forbid that it happens when we are live. We brought it to the business, people start using it, and then somebody detects that there is something wrong in the app, right? And then we face the biggest problem is that people don't have trust in our business intelligence system, and that I think is the dagger in the back of business intelligence. So let's try to find that early in the process and design our process in such a way and have tooling in place in such a way that we can do that early in the process and that fixing it isn't very costly. Now, so if we go a little bit deeper into the theory and the academics of DevOps, then I would recommend reading this book of David Farley. Right? It's very detailed about how to implement continuous integration, continuous delivery. And he talks about 8 elements for DevOps. Right? So the first thing that he says is that we have to create a repeatable, reliable release process. And the only way to get it repeatable and reliable is by automation. If it's a manual process and you take manual steps, then, well, we know every time it's a little bit different. I forget something, or I didn't follow the processes, or I didn't read the documentation, or I forgot about it. So automation is key to create that repeatable, reliable release process. And one of the funny things in the book is that he says, well, if you detect a lot of documentation, right, about your release process, then it is a very manual process, right? Because then we want to give people education and we want to transfer knowledge. The third key element is put everything under version control. Everything should be versioned, right? Not only your load script. A lot of people say, well, my load script, I version it, or Qlik does that in the cloud, and that's good enough, right? That's the most important piece. But that's not true, because if you want to do real root cause analysis, you want to know what object has changed and what the impact is of any change of any object, because everything is related to each other, right? And it also includes the QMC elements. It's not only the app that and mostly we focus on the app, but it's also the QMC elements that we should put on the version control. Now, fun one is, of course, when it hurts, do it more frequently, right? We always use, oh, that hurt, let's not do that again, right? But if it hurts, do it more frequently, because then you get better at it. Building quality, you will get in two ways. You're building quality in your processes, and every manager knows if they control the process and the quality in the process, they control the quality of the output. So building quality by checks and balances, but also by automation and automated testing is critical to make sure that you have the quality that is required. And then done means released, and probably Barry, you have the same, right? You ask your developers, how far are you? Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, you're done with your little piece, but there are 10, 20 steps behind that. So done doesn't mean that you're done. No, it just done means that the whole process is completed and that it's in the hand of the end users and they start using it. That means done.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that means also that everybody is responsible for this delivery process. Oh no, that was not mine. My load process is excellent. It was, etc. Right? No, it's the whole process that we have to focus on, and I think that is a key element of DevOps. And then continuously improve. Right? We have to learn from how we work. We have to get better in what we are doing. Better in the sense of that I get feedback on the mistakes that I make while I develop, but also reasons why we are delayed, reasons why we didn't meet our deadlines, and having business intelligence over business intelligence. And I will come back to that a little bit later during this session. All right. So now the other book that I mentioned is a very academic book, maybe a little bit boring book at certain moments, but there's a book that is way more exciting and that I really recommend everybody to read. And it's the Phoenix Project. And you already mentioned it's a novel based on the goal of Gold Rat.
Yeah.
Right? It's a novel written book. Basically, it takes you through the life of Bill Palmer. And Bill Palmer is a middle manager responsible for mid-range systems, and he has control over everything. At a certain moment, he is called at the CEO, and the CEO said, well, I laid off my CIO, and I laid off the VP of IT operations, and you will be the next VP of IT operations. And he said, no, I don't think I want that job, right? I think I'm fine where I am. Well, in the end, the CEO convinced him to take this job, and then bad things happen, of course. But he meets this Eric Reed, and Eric Reed is the board candidate. He's kind of a guru, and he helps Bill Palmer to give him hints how to solve his problems that he has in IT operations, and basically how he can make sure that the IT operation is not disrupted, and how to work together with the development of IT in this corporation. And basically, the books take you through the story of how to implement DevOps. And I want to go over a key conversation that basically tells you what the core is of DevOps. Now, Bill and Eric has continuously interaction with each other. And at a certain moment, Eric made some kind of comments and Bill thought about it, but he didn't really understand it, right? Now, what Eric told him was, get the humans out of the deployment process. Figure out how to do 10 deployments a day. Now, I want everybody in the audience to think about that, right? 10 Qlik deployments per day. How are you going to manage that, right? Now, background of this remark, the Phoenix Project is a critical strategic project for this organization that is almost going bankrupt. Yeah? They're beaten by their competitors badly, right? And they deploy every 2 or 3 months. They're not fast. Now, Bill responds probably like all of you would respond, how I would respond, 10 deployments a day. Why? Right? Well, nobody's asking for that. I'm pretty sure about that. Don't you put a target too high, right? Why 10? An arbitrary number. And then Eric rolls his eyes and he goes like, man, stop focusing on the department's target rate, right? It's not just about that raw speed, about getting these deployments done, about the 10. No, what it's about, that you are able to detect and respond to changes in the market and be able to take certain calculated risks because it's needed for the business, right? What he said is you have to be able to out-experiment and beat your competitors in time to market and agility. And now think about that. So it's not about the 10 deployment, but it is capable to deploy immediately when needed for the business. And Aline, I think we had a good example during this trip, right, about a customer.
Yeah, one of our customers was making their Qlik deployments every 2 weeks, right? And what would happen is the business people, because they didn't want to wait to the next 2 weeks because it's 4 weeks, they would push an app into that deployment before it was ready, and the app would actually have errors in it just because they didn't want to wait the extra 2 weeks. Or if you make deployments every day, then they could get it the next day or the next day. So then their app would actually be accurate.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that this is a critical thing. So if you, I recommend reading this book because although it's a generic IT problems, it's very well applicable for business intelligence, right? Because if I have a sheet and it's ready, why can I not just deploy that one sheet then to production? Why do I have to wait for a release and get everything done? And then I go back to that calculated risk. Well, what is the calculated risk if I add one sheet, right? What is that? I don't have to reload the app. I just deploy that one sheet, right? If there's something wrong, I can roll it back immediately. So we can take calculated risk to be faster and deliver faster, right? And I think we had another example of a customer that said, when COVID hit us, we quickly needed information, right? Because it was going so fast and events were following up so quickly that we needed the information. We couldn't wait to a whole cycle to say, no, let's build this project. I will assign a project manager who will look for budget. No, I need that information right now. It's critical for our operation to have that information. So I think taking a different mindset here and think about your deployment and how you do it right now and figure out how you as an organization could get to 10 deployments a day. If you are able to do that, then you truly have implemented DevOps. Now, some definitions, and let's go back to the academics. Often you hear about continuous integration, and that's a software practice, right? It's a software practice where multiple people work together on apps in a shared repository, right? And that allows branching and merging to be happening. I should not have to wait when Barry is working on a load script. I should be able to work on other aspects in that app. And then we talk about continuous delivery, also development practice to ensure that we have a frequent and consistent and reliable deployments. And then continuous deployment is really the way of automation and automatically deploy to your production environment. So it's important to know that. So if you apply these principles to understand what it is. And what are the key elements then of continuous integration, continuous delivery, basically DevOps, that helps you to achieve this? Now, first, zero-touch version control. Zero-touch is critical, especially in business intelligence, because we have power users, we have citizen developers, we have maybe junior consultants that do things. If it's a manual process, you will have gaps and you won't version everything, right? So it should be zero-touch versioning. So that means that every change that I make is being picked up everywhere. That means that it's in the sheet, it's in an app, but it's also in the QMC elements, right? Now, the second critical part of DevOps is that you have automated testing, which means that if you make a change, you are immediately able to test it and make sure that if you do branching and merging, that you don't break anything else, right? So automated testing is a key element. And then the third is about deployment, that you can do that automatically, rapid, and frequently, like we discussed earlier, to go through that cycle of analyzing and defining the needs, develop, test, deploy. And then, of course, we see changes coming again, right? Because I built this dashboard and people say, that's a great dashboard, but hey, can you change this graph, this visualization? Can you add one sheet? Can you make me a story? Hey, I want to have some bookmarks here, all right? So people want to have changes and we should be able to apply that as well and relate that change to a ticket that people have made. Okay, now, DevOps tool that Motio have brought to market and that we work with Metric is Soterre. And Soterre is a zero-touch version control tool. So it doesn't change your way of working. There's no need for check-in, check-outs. There's no way that you have to learn a different way of development or a release process, right? It's seamless for your power users and your citizen developers because they don't even know that it's happening, but everything they do is being versioned, right? They make a change, they create a private sheet, is being versioned automatically. Right? Now, we don't look at an app as a binary file. We look at an app as a container. And the container has different parts. And the container has a sheet, a bookmark, a story, the load script, the model. And we version them individually. And that gives us a lot of power. Not only that we can deploy them individually, but also we can do visual diff of sheets. Because it's nice to have somebody comes to you and say, hey, Barry, that was a great sheet, but you changed something. And you go like, when was that? I think it was in May, but I like that visualization earlier better. Now you compare the JSON file, but it doesn't tell you anything, right?
Yeah. No.
You're like, May, that's pretty vague, right?
It was like 100 apps ago.
Yeah. Indeed, but if I can pull them side by side, I can say, did you mean this one? No. Oh, this one. Yes, because here you did this. Can I have this visualization back? Sure, we can roll that back because we version on that very granular level. So it's lifecycle automation, it's merging and branching, it's deployment, inspection, and testing. Also be audit ready. That's very important for organization nowadays to understand who did what, when, and why. Right? And have that ticket integration as well, because if somebody says, hey, why did we make this change, right? I didn't ask for that. Well, there's a ticket related, that ticket was approved, and look it up here, and here you see the whole process. So relating that change to the ticket, I think is essential. And then analytics over analytics, that we can see all these changes, not only in a timeline in our application, but also in Qlik. And then we can relate it with other information as usage information. And as a BI director, as a BI manager, I need to manage my processes as well. I need to have my KPIs as well. I want to make sure that we meet our goals as well. So I need analytics as well as part of my job. Now, Soterre comes with GitHub and QSDA Pro, right? There's 3 different tools, different individual license, but they work seamlessly together to basically complete the picture. And that's right, the man with the hat, right? I still love that story. I don't know if it's a true story, but somebody told me that Rob forgot his hat at one of the events, and then somebody said, that cannot be true. I will buy you one. I don't know if it's a true story, but I love the story. He's part now of the Motio team. We're very, very happy to have him joining us with QSDA Pro and basically co-develop with him and make this product better and make sure that everybody can use this and get a worldwide support from us, and that we can focus on adding these aspects that we are investigating. So what does that mean, right? What does that mean, a testing suite, and how does Soterre and QSDA Pro work together? Now, like I mentioned, you can use QSDA Pro as a standalone inspection tool, no problem with that. But the moment you integrate it in your DevOps, that means that you can bring test automation in place according certain policies or according certain business rules, which means that if I'm a developer and I am ready and I ask to deploy this app, Soterre knows this. Soterre knows that you made a request for deployment. Soterre knows that you changed the app. So Soterre can ask QSDA Pro to evaluate it automatically without any interaction by the user itself. And then if I have to evaluate it, I go in and I say, it has been evaluated QSDA Pro. Hey, there are 5 more flags. I don't have to spend much of time to look at the app. I can investigate these flags, and I could say to the developer, hey, why did you do this? Why didn't you fix this? Is there a specific reason for that? So it brings test automation in place, but also, for example, if I deploy it to a QA environment, the business rule could be, I deployed it from dev to QA, it landed in QA. Now it has to be tested because I want to make sure that the performance is okay in this environment. Automatically, without somebody going in and say, hey, test. Like we said, the DevOps principles apply automation. Yeah. Now the third aspect is test analytics, right? So if I am a developer and I test my app, I get feedback, and that's okay. I need that to optimize this application. But as a BI director, I want to know what is the mistake that we always make, right? Is there something that I can do to help to educate my developers on, right? Is there some sort of aspect that are so complex that I want to know and inform my team with? Hey guys, we always forget this. Let's focus on that because it costs us money, right? Or can I analyze it where we make more mistakes than other mistakes? I was speaking on earlier and said, marketing apps are simple, right? But the finance apps are very complex. So I maybe have to put my best developers on the finance apps because we always take more time, and QDA Pro always finds something there because they are so complex. Right? Now, if I have that kind of analysis, then it helps me to manage my development process. Now, what is the whole enterprise DevOps architectural design? Soterre is the core, right? It connects to your Qlik environment. That can be in SaaS, or it could be on-premise. It can also connect to Power BI. So Soterre is, from that perspective, agnostic. What we do is we store this in our own backing store, and that from that perspective we can push it to a Git corporate repository. And that is important to have it in Git, because a lot of organizations actually do code scanning or vulnerability scanning in Git. They have these processes set up. They want to also check and test the code that is created by Qlik, in Qlik, and that's why we can push it there. And then we have QSDA Pro as our inspection and testing engine, and of course Git-Clock. And we didn't mention Git-Clock yet, but Git-Clock is a browser plugin that helps you with a lot of things. Now, so for some organizations, if you're very small, you have 1 or 2 developers, this might be too much, over the top. And of course, we can discuss how you can set it up in a smaller configuration for if you have 1, 2, or 3 developers. But if you're over 5, then I think this is the recommended implementation. Well, back to Git-Clock. So Git-Clock is a browser plugin. And what it does, it connects Qlik in the Qlik interface with Soterre and with QSDA Pro. So you don't have to leave Qlik to actually do things like add a comment, relate to a ticket, or kick off a QSDA Pro assessment. Right? You can do that from the Qlik interface. But also this helps you to visualize 2 different sheets. You can roll back individual parts of a sheet. You can merge sheets. You can merge load processes if you want to. If you have templates, you can use them. There's a thumbnail assistant, right? It was funny because I spoke with a developer and he said, "Oh man, this was a very complex app, and I'm ready." And then he said, and "Then I have to make all these thumbnails, right?" And that's not the only thing. I also have to get all these descriptions in, right, of the sheets and what it means, etc. And I'm not good at that. I thought I was done, but now I have this administrative burden, right? Now use the AI assistants. Just say, "Hey, AI, give me a good description of this sheet. Give me a good description of this this master item." And AI will tell you, you can alter it or you can ask for a new one. But that saves a lot of time. As a developer, I don't want to spend another 2, 3, 4 hours on getting it ready, right? And then, of course, a joke that my pre-sales engineer always makes, right? That's why I do developers like the dark mode. It keeps the bugs away. So, and security rules manager as well. Now, how do Soterre and Git-Clock work together? Not only to add more comments, but also we can see if there is a collision happening. We can detect a collision. Because what happens if we want to do branching and merging, we want to work in the same app at the same time. But sometimes you don't want that to happen. So let's say that Barry has to make a quick fix because there's a production issue, and I have the app open. He will get a message saying, "Hey, Edwin is working on this app," and I could overwrite his quick fix, and nobody would know, right? So it will tell him that, "Hey, Edwin has this open," and he can call me and say, "Hey, can you please close it because I need to fix this," or he knows that he has to merge it in later as well. So this helps with communication within the team, that somebody has brought it to his personal workspace, right? Well, somebody else needs to work on this app. And then my favorite, right? Our CTO always says, "You have to eat your own dog food," right? And I'm like, "Oh, that sounds disgusting," right? And I'm like, "No, it should be drink our own champagne. Qlik is our champagne. Right? We give it to the end users, we give it to the business users to use, but we should use it ourselves as well. We should use Qlik over Qlik development. We should use Power BI over Power BI development. We should get all the information about who changed what, when, and why, the test results. We should get, the usage of these apps after and before the change all together in one Qlik application. And that's what we bring on the table. All right. Cool. And now Barry's like, you have to show something, right?
Yeah.
A lot of talking, but not that much seeing. Well, now, I have to cover myself. I'm not a pre-sale engineer, so probably have to do this demo that I've seen 1,000 times and now do for you guys. So don't be too hard on me. So although I'm an Qlik ambassador, I'm not a Qlik developer actually. I'm more focused on the processes around it. All right, now logging into Qlik, and I'm going to log into Soterre as well. Do I still share my screen? I don't see it anymore.
No.
That's what I thought.
Share.
Yeah, I think so. Let me share my entire screen here. All right. Yeah, I can see it. All right. To log in here to my different environment. If I have Power BI, I could do that. If I have SaaS, I could do that, but I will click Sense here. So authorization is basically done through Qlik, right? Soterre only adds authorization in certain group and roles settings that are needed to work with Soterre, but the authentication is done through Qlik, so that makes it very easy. So I'm here right now. So looking at my Qlik environment, this is a very simple Qlik environment. I have here several streams, and I got here an app. I'm going to work on the fleet surplus app, and let me open that up for you guys so you can see what it looks like. So you can see I have here 3 sheets. I got a bookmark, a few bookmarks here. I got a story here. So, it's a very regular, simple app. And if I would open the app, you can see that, everything is working as expected in this app. So nothing special here. All right. So if I would go to Soterre, and basically I can explore. And you can see that I have all my environments that I can connect. Now, some people have like a DAF prod, a few environments, but we ran into a customer in Germany, I think, and they had 45 production environments. Okay, this is kind of a different implementation, right? 45 production environments. Now, so you can connect to as many Qlik environments that you want. And the first thing that you would see is that we can split the Qlik environment into separate groups. So we can group streams together to kind of organize them. And it could be that there are different deployment rules applicable for, again, marketing or for finance. And for marketing, we say, yeah, that's fine. They requested we just deploy. But for finance, we have to have approvals in place. We have to make requests for deployments. There has to be people that approve them, release them, and then we go live. So you can set up different groups and apply different business rules for these projects. But I'm going to work in my admin project for right now. So you can see that we version a personal workspace, the streams, but also different QMC elements here. So if you make changes in the QMC, those will be versioned as well and can be rolled back. But I have several streams here. I got my data analysis stream, my fleet surplus auction app, a little bit of tongue twister here, and it gives me a lot of information here in this screen. So I see all the properties, and if I want to add a few, or I want to show less, I can do that. But it also gives me a timeline of all the changes that have happened in this app and by who changes are being made. So I can see that on the timeline on an app level, on a stream level, on a project level, to see, okay, what is actually going on in this environment? Who made the change and when did they make these changes? So I have that full change history, but I also have my deployment history. So if you want to know, has this been deployed to production? No, in this case, no, there's no deployment history. This is an app that only lives in my development environment and has never been deployed to production. I can have discussion on certain items, on the quality of it as well. And I have my inspection history. That means that I can see how QSDA Pro, I can look at the results of QSDA Pro on this app during the different stages. So that brings it together. I can say, hey, we did an inspection in September here, right? But what were the results? If I don't have a new version after that, I know that we never picked up these flags that were fine. And then I have dependency as well, where I can see the whole dependency between the different objects, etc., and see how things are related with each other. So where is the data coming from another QVD file, and what does it depends and what does it depends on? All right. So so everything is captured automatically, but of course I need to show that. So let me go back to here and see if I can duplicate this fleet surplus auction app to my personal workspace, and there it is. And what I can do here is, I'm not going to do anything special, but I'm going to apply some changes, and you will see how that is going to be picked up automatically without me doing anything additional. So I got here the regional fleet sheet. Oh my goodness. Back here. So I go here to another one. I'm going to make here a change, for example, to this title of edit sheet title. So I'm done editing. App overview, and I can delete something here, right? And I could go in here. So I deleted something, I changed something, but I could also say, okay, why don't I create a bookmark here? So I say create a new bookmark, and this is my demo bookmark. So, great, right? So that's now there. All right. So I'm going to close out here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to publish this app. I'm going to replace it and republish. So now what's happening right now? Soterre knows that you are publishing an app, and what it will do is it will look at these changes that you have made and look at the individual level of these changes and store them in the environment. So if I open the app again, to quickly see if these changes have been picked up. I didn't make any mistake here. It's opening the app right now. So you can see here, I have now only 2 sheets. I have my demo bookmark, and we'll trust that that one sheet has that a different name as well. Okay. So my changes are here. Now let's go back to Soterre. Go out here. Explore, and let me see if I can pick this up. And I go to the change history. Where's my screen here? Let me go back. Go to here. So here, sheets. So what you see right now is here that the regional fleet sheet shows as deleted, right? So and I think I made my change to the equipment data sheet. I'm not sure where it is, but I can then maybe I made it in the other one. Go back. Try it equipment. Did I do it there? Yeah. I did it in the retired equipment sheet. So I see my change here. That's October 5th, so that's today. I can diff them, so I can compare them. I can select both and then compare the artifactuals, and I can see, okay, where did I make the change? What are the changes? And you can see here, I changed the title of the sheet here, so I can see actually what happened. Right now, so you can see that it's on an individual level right now. But what happens then when somebody comes in and say, "Hey, Edwin, that regional fleet sheet that you deleted, I actually used that. I don't know why you did that, but I don't want it to be deleted. I want it back." And that's then after a few weeks, of course, where a lot of development has been done. And how can I roll back that individual object without rolling back the other change? I could have made a backup of that app, roll back, but then I lose everything that's done in between. So it's very easy to do. I select this version that I want to roll back to. I just click restore. It asks me to fill in my credentials, but I'm already logged in. And basically what happens is that the restore job is going to be kicked off. And it looks what has to be restored. It gives us a status update. Now, you're able to set the security in such a way that you allow certain users to do that or not. So you could say, well, this is work for an administrator. I don't let everybody do it. Or you could say, yeah, well, in your own development stream, you're allowed to do that, however you want to set it up. Yeah, I rolled it back, which means that there is a new version here. As you can see, I created version 17. That is the same as version 15, and it's been restored. So if I would go to this app now, and bring it back, you can see that my regional fleet sheet is back, but my demo bookmark is still there. And I think I made a change in this sheet, right? My title is still retired equipment by year, which means that I can do it on a very granular level. If I would have changed the load script, again, there would be no impact. I only impacted that one object. Yeah.
So now that you mention it, Edwin, we have a question in the chat from Domine, who's asking about versioning of the load script. Can you, in the interface, maybe show? It is possible with Soterre, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So the load script is part of the app. Let me see if I can go there quickly. So the load script is part of the. Let's see where I have that then.
Let me go back to the.
Yeah. I think it is somewhere here. I think I have to go to maybe to the property.
The script view.
Oh yeah. So here's the script. Yeah, this is the load script here. So you would see that here. So there are no changes in the load script, but if I would make a change here, then that would show up in this. So the load script is versioned here. And if there's a change, it will be in the change history here. And then I could diff it. I could compare the objects. And here you can see the load script. So there are no difference in the load script. There are only difference here in the properties. You have the load module. There are no diffs here. But if I would make a change to the script, it would be here. And I can compare them side by side.
As well as roll them back.
As well as roll them back, yes. I can roll back that load script to a prior version, yes. Yeah, everything that's versioned can be deployed, and everything can be rolled back. Yeah. And again, if I would roll back the load script, it wouldn't impact the sheets then. Right? Yeah. Now you can imagine that if a sheet used something in that new version, then you might want to fix that sheet. But that's of course a consequence of that role.
Of course, yeah.
Good. Any other questions that the audience have? Now, the interesting part is that I already I can launch an inspection from here if I want to. So I can immediately say, hey, I want to launch it with a certain bookmark in QSDA Pro and run it. I'm not going to do that, but I have this inspection history as well. So I can double click on that, and that would bring me to QSDA Pro, where I would see all the items, the flags that are on that state of the app at that time.
Yeah.
And that would help me as well to see, okay, has there been an inspection? Yes or no? What were the outcome? And did the person fix the items in the next release? So you have that whole history as well of all your inspections available here in Soterre. So it's all clustered together. All right. Does it show up well now, my slide?
Yes.
It shows up, yes.
Good. All right, so we went over who we are. We went over the principles of DevOps for analytics. We discussed that there are three major components: zero-touch version control, automated deployment, and of course inspection and testing. Those three go hand in hand. But there is one more topic, because we built these analytics assets, whether it's people are very good in creating stuff. We're not very good in cleaning up. So we're always adding. And I got an 18-year-old boy at home, and I can tell you, he's very good in creating stuff. He's not very good in cleaning up his room. But we are not different, right? We are not different in the Qlik environment as well. So one of the topics that I want to go into a little bit is analytics asset management. Because if we would look at it and we say, well, what is an asset? Well, an asset is a resource that has economic value. And it has economic value because it will provide future benefit for the organization. Now, that means that analytic assets, they provide benefit for the organizations for operational purposes, to execute their processes, or for their strategical direction that they are heading through. So these are assets in our organization, and we spend a lot of money on software, on hardware, on labor. So much money goes into business intelligence. But do we really manage these assets then? Right now, these assets needs to be managed, because the value of an asset can differ. Right? Not every report has the same value for the organization. But also, assets have a life cycle. Yeah? You start using them, the usage ramps up, but then it goes down. And we had a good discussion in England, where we were early this week, and we were discussing this topic, and the guy said, you're right, we build a lot of assets for Brexit, but they're barely used anymore. But still, we upload the data, we still maintain them, we still test them if there's an upgrade. But do they truly still add value? No, because the process is finished, right? But they're still there, and nobody says, hey, kill them. So we spend a lot of money on that. Now, at the same time, not all reports and dashboards feel similarly. Some are very complex, right? And some are very simple. So the likelihood of encountering issues is different as well, right? The implication of a failure is different as well. And we have to think about, if you're a rental company, you rent out cars, if your cars that you rent out suddenly have to have more oil, and you have to fill up the oil every 2 weeks, they still run, they still work, but they don't perform well anymore, right? Then if they drive 25 miles a gallon and they go back to 50 miles a gallon, there's something wrong with the engine. You have to check them out. And the same can be happening with Qlik assets. They could run fine, but at a certain moment they got very slow. Well, it doesn't have to be Qlik. It could also be that the data is more. It can be different reasons for that. But that means that the cost and the value differs over time, and we have to evaluate that cost of ownership, right? Now, a good question is, can you have data governance then without analytic asset management? Now, let me ask you, what are the analytic assets, aspects of the analytic assets?
Well, the assets where you have to have you want to know what's being used, what's not being used, preferably what the purpose of the asset was, and the complexity, do you have similarities? When we get into multiple analytics tools, do we end up with assets that are similar from Power BI to Tableau to Qlik? How do you know? And a Qlik developer is not a Power BI developer, is not a Cognos developer. So they're going to build new assets. It's easier. Okay. But then we want to answer questions that are more intricate. What is the strategic value to the organization for this asset? What is the critical value of this asset to the organization? Then they can be different, even though on the slide it says strategic or critical, because a strategic asset is not necessarily a critical asset. I could have a finance asset that's absolutely critical to run the business, but it's not strategic for what's going to drive my business to beat my competition. So those are not one and the same. So this is all stuff that we seek to do in the new product we're about to release.
Correct. So in New Orleans, in our event, we're going to release the analytic assets management tool to basically that collects this information. We'll start with Cognos, Qlik, and Power BI, but then we take it to the step further. Is can we determine the purpose of this? Right? Can we analyze the complexity of this? And that brings true analytic asset management on the table. Because we have to manage these assets because they represent value, right? But the value changes over time. So I think it's a key element, and everybody we talk to, they recognize this problem because it gets bigger, and bigger, right? Especially with when we do power users and give them the abilities for self-service. If we have citizens, developers creating a lot of assets, right? What is the value and how is it used? Do you recognize this?
I certainly recognize this, and I think with the upcoming capacity model of Qlik, it's only going to be more important to keep your environment clean.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to build the new stuff. Nobody ever wants to clean up the old stuff. So it's really helpful if we have solutions to help speed up that process and identify those sources as well.
No, absolutely. Yeah, we think that this is critical. So analytic asset management is really a practice, right? It's a practice that makes sure that the value is kept, but if the value goes down, its use goes down, then you have to take action there, right? To make sure that you have processes and tools in place to basically manage that. And it goes beyond one BI tool, right? Because analytics are everywhere, right? They are in documents, they are in PowerPoints, they are in PDFs, they are in Power BI. Everybody has Power BI. They're in Qlik. They're everywhere. So that means that from an analytics asset management, you have to look broader than only the tool that you are working in. So now the question to the audience: How can we contribute to your success, your analytics success, to basically bring these capabilities to your organizations, these best practices to your organization, and then make sure that you have the most accurate and reliable BI implementation possible?
We have two questions from the audience.
Very good.
The Renee has a question again. Is it possible to know all data sources used by each app? I mean, SQL tables, views, QVD files, Excel files, etc. Which field, etc. I'm asking that because imagine that we modify the Qlik app in charge of creating one QVD used by many apps. And I'm going to change how a column is called, and I want to evaluate the impact of this change.
Yeah, we have to separate the discussion between data lineage and object lineage. And what we provide is object lineage. We know which objects are being changed. We know which object is related to another object, and we know that lineage. So it's truly object lineage that we provide, but it's not data lineage that we put on the table, because there are other tools to do that. Yeah. But it's object lineage. That means that if you are going to do a deployment, and this is not in the product yet, but we're working on this, right? Because we know now how objects are related, that we could do with a deployment. We could say, hey, you're deploying this app, but do you know that this app is related to that app that has been changed? Because we know it's been changed, and the deployment only says this app, right? But this app is changed as well, and they are related because it creates a QVD file that is read by the other app. So we could say, hey, wait a minute, because we know the relationship. So that's where we are going to work on. And the other thing that we are working on is what we call search and replace. So the moment QSDA Pro sees something, and it sees that, hey, wait a minute, I got here a master item, and I find two master items with the same formula, right? But that should be merged into one.
Yep.
Can we do a search and replace and do that automatically? Because we want to bring more automation on the table.
A second question, also from Dominic. One more question. Is it possible to define an approval workflow? I mean, developer one modifies something and then testing, or the user who required a change has to check if the app runs properly before publishing it.
Yes, absolutely. And hopefully Soterre just let me not log in again. But if I go to Explore here and I go to my projects, then this marketing project has a deployment request. And this deployment request is really where you add certain items to this deployment request. It could be a sheet, it could be an app, it could be the whole build. And basically what it says is, hey, you have your standard deployment checklist. We give you a template, but you can adjust it yourself. And you can fill in this template and say, yes, I did this, I did this, I did this. And then you can assign reviewers and have a discussion. So you could say, hey, I only need one reviewer to approve, or you could say, no, two independent people have to approve it, right? So you can have approval process there as well and have discussion. Now, what we are going to do is that QSDA Pro will be one of the reviewers as an automated bot that says, hey, I detected this, did you look at that? Because there are problems in this app. And then the reviewer goes like, oh, that's interesting. Hey, tell me more, developer. Why are they still there? And then the developer might say, well, I built a load process, but there's still some unused fields that will be in the next release. And then the reviewer could say, okay, that's acceptable. I accept it. And then it can be deployed. So this whole workflow is available here.
Perfect.
Very
And
cool.
then I see it is 12. So if anybody has to jump off, this webinar is recorded. So we will make it available on demand. But one more question from Arokia. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Great presentation. Can Soterre deployment pipeline triggered from other COP approval tools? Can we use Soterre API to trigger?
Yeah, so what you could do is have tools like Jenkins or other tools make a call to Soterre and say deployment. Because what we often see, of course, is that Qlik is a part of a whole set. There are ATL changes, there are data warehouse changes. There are many changes that have to be applied in a certain order. Now, tools like Jenkins are very well suitable for that. And then Jenkins can make a call to Soterre and say, do this deployment.
Perfect. If you guys have any other questions, please drop them in the chat box.
Well, I want to thank everybody for, thank you for having us here and do this presentation. And yeah, if any questions arise, reach out to Bitmetric, and we're glad to help you here.
Well, thank you, Edwin. Thank you, Lynn. This has been very informative. I'll switch the camera around a little bit. So I mean, we got the comment that it was centered, so we were getting cut off. This was very informative, and yeah, we at Bitmetric think Motio Soterre is a great solution along with QSDA Pro, and yeah, it certainly beats discipline and documentation, I would say.
Yeah.
That's something that we've been working with for a long time, but we've learned you cannot rely on that all the time, and it's so much better to use an automated solution for that.
Absolutely.
So thank you for being here and showing everyone more about it. To you attending the webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And as Mireille mentioned, the webinar is recorded and will be shared with all of you afterwards as well. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And if there's any more questions, there's no more questions, then we'll keep the channel open for another 2-3 minutes in case there's any last minute questions. But I wish you, for those of you who are leaving, I wish you a good day. Thank you for joining and hope to see you at another webinar or event. Take care.